Think China is just about the Great Wall and pandas? You won't believe what I'm about to tell you. Wait until you find out about their social credit system that can ban you from buying plane tickets, or how they built an entire fake Paris complete with the Eiffel Tower. Here's the scary part. Some of these facts will make you question everything you thought you knew about the world's most populated country. Number 15. China has built entire replica cities of famous Western locations that sit completely empty. You heard right. There's a full-scale copy of Paris in Tianducheng, complete with a 108-meter Eiffel Tower and Haussmannian architecture. The development was designed to house 10,000 residents, but only 2,000 people actually live there, creating an eerie ghost town atmosphere. Walking through these replica streets feels like being in a movie set where someone forgot to hire the extras. The Chinese government spent over $300 million creating these developments across the country, including copies of Manhattan, Venice, and even an entire Austrian village called Hallstatt. Think this sounds unbelievable? There are at least 50 of these copycat cities scattered throughout China, most of them sitting largely abandoned. The original plan was to attract wealthy Chinese families who wanted a taste of European lifestyle without leaving the country, but instead, they created some of the world's most expensive ghost towns. Here's the funny part. The real Hallstatt in Austria now gets more Chinese tourists than Austrian ones, all coming to see the original version of their replica city. Number 14. China's social credit system can prevent you from buying train tickets, booking hotels, or even getting your children into good schools based on your behavior score. Sounds like something out of a dystopian novel, but 17 million Chinese citizens have already been banned from purchasing flight tickets due to low social credit scores. The system tracks everything from jaywalking and smoking in non-smoking areas to online purchases and social media posts. If you're caught playing music too loud on public transport, your score drops. If you don't visit your aging parents regularly enough, it drops further. Wait until you find out the consequences. People with low scores can't get loans, can't book high-speed train tickets, and their children are banned from attending private schools. The system uses facial recognition cameras and AI to monitor citizens 24/7, with over 200 million surveillance cameras installed across the country. Here's the scary part. Your score can also be affected by the people you associate with. If your friend has a low social credit score and you spend time together, your own score can decrease. By 2020, the system had already blocked people from taking 23 million flights and 11 million high-speed train journeys. Think Big Brother was just fiction? In China, he's watching every move you make and keeping score. Number 13. There's a Chinese billionaire who bought the most expensive pigeon in the world for $1.9 million, and pigeon racing is a multi-billion-dollar industry there. You heard right. A racing pigeon named Armando sold for more than most people's houses, making it officially the most expensive pigeon in history. Chinese pigeon racing has become so intense that top birds can earn their owners millions of dollars in prize money, with some races offering jackpots exceeding $6.7 million. The sport attracts over 300,000 serious competitors who treat their birds like Formula One race cars, complete with specialized diets, training regimens, and even performance-enhancing supplements. Wait until you find out how serious they are. Wealthy Chinese pigeon owners hire professional trainers, build climate-controlled lofts that cost more than luxury apartments, and use helicopters to transport their birds to competitions. Here's the funny part. These pampered pigeons eat better than most humans, with diets including Belgian chocolates, premium vitamins, and custom-mixed grains that cost $100 per kilogram. The racing culture has become so extreme that some owners spend over $500,000 annually just maintaining their flock. Think this sounds crazy? The Chinese pigeon racing market is now worth over $15 billion, making it one of the country's most lucrative animal sports, and champions are treated like celebrities with their own social media accounts and fan clubs. Number 12. China consumes about 65% of the world's rice wine, but get this, their most expensive bottle actually costs more than a Ferrari, and is considered a liquid investment, just like gold. Sounds unbelievable, but a single bottle of 1958 Wuliangye recently sold at auction for $815,000, making it one of the most expensive spirits ever purchased. Chinese Baijiu, which is their traditional rice wine, represents a $170 billion market that, honestly, most Westerners have never even heard of, even though it's the world's most consumed category of spirits. The cultural significance goes so deep that business deals worth millions are sealed with specific toasts using aged baijiu. And believe it or not, refusing a drink can be seen as a serious insult. You heard right, there are baijiu sommeliers who can actually identify the exact distillery and year just by smell, and these experts command salaries exceeding $200,000 annually. Here's the scary part about the investment angle. Vintage bottles of premium baijiu have outperformed the stock market over the past decade, with some rare bottles appreciating 400% in value within just 5 years. Wait until you find out how they store it. Wealthy collectors build temperature-controlled cellars specifically for baijiu, and there's an entire black market for counterfeit vintage bottles. The taste is so intense and acquired that even experienced drinkers describe it as drinking liquid fire mixed with soy sauce. Yet Chinese consumers spend more on baijiu annually than Americans spend on all alcoholic beverages combined. Number 11. Chinese parents hire professional queuing services to wait in lines for everything from hospital appointments to school registrations, creating a billion-dollar waiting industry. Think waiting in line is something you have to do yourself? Think again. In major Chinese cities you can hire someone to wait in line for you for about $3 per hour, and some professional queuers make over $30,000 annually just by standing around. The industry exploded because of China's massive population density. Getting a number for a specialist doctor in Beijing might require showing up at 3 in the morning and waiting 8 hours, so wealthy families just pay someone else to do it. Here's the funny part. There are now queuing companies with hundreds of employees who specialize in different types of lines. Some focus on medical appointments, others on government services, and the most elite ones handle luxury product launches where people camp out for days. Wait until you find out the extremes people go to. During iPhone launches, professional queuers have been known to wear adult diapers and bring portable toilets to hold their spots for multiple days. The service has become so sophisticated that you can track your queue position through smartphone apps, and some companies guarantee your spot or offer a full refund. You heard right. There are queue masters who coordinate teams of waiters like military operations, complete with shift changes, food delivery, and backup personnel in case someone gets sick. The craziest part? Some queuers make more money than college graduates, and parents now list professional waiter as an acceptable career choice for their children. Number 10. China has a massive gender imbalance with 34 million more men than women, leading to bride prices that can cost families their life savings and creating an entire rent-a-girlfriend industry. Sounds like something from another planet, but Chinese families routinely pay between $50,000 to $200,000 in bride prices, plus provide a fully furnished apartment and a car just to secure a wife for their son. The gender ratio crisis stems from the former one-child policy combined with cultural preferences for male children, creating a demographic disaster that will affect the country for generations. You won't believe how extreme this has become. In rural areas, some families go into debt for decades just to afford a bride price, and there are professional matchmakers who charge $10,000 just for introductions to potential wives. Here's the scary part. The competition has become so intense that men are now required to own property before they can even get a date, leading to a real estate bubble partly driven by desperate bachelors. Wait until you find out about the rent-a-girlfriend services. Young women can make $500 per day pretending to be someone's girlfriend at family gatherings, complete with coaching on family history and fake relationship stories. The service is so popular that booking rates spike 300% during Chinese New Year when family pressure peaks. Think this sounds unbelievable? There are now dating apps specifically for negotiating bride prices, and some families hire private investigators to verify potential brides' backgrounds and ensure they're worth the investment. The most extreme cases involve families selling their homes and borrowing against future earnings just to secure a daughter-in-law, creating a marriage market that operates more like a luxury goods auction than traditional courtship. Number 9. Chinese construction workers built a 57-story skyscraper in just 19 days using prefabricated modules, revolutionizing how we think about building speed. You heard right. While Western construction projects take years, Chinese builders assembled the mini Sky City Tower in Changsha faster than most people renovate their kitchens. The secret lies in their prefabricated construction method, where 95% of the building components are manufactured in factories and then assembled on site like giant Lego blocks. Each floor takes approximately 8 hours to complete, with workers operating in 3 shifts around the clock to maintain the breakneck pace. Wait until you find out the efficiency numbers. The building method uses 99% factory fabrication, reducing construction waste by 80% and cutting energy consumption by 70% compared to traditional methods. Here's the mind-blowing part. The finished building can withstand magnitude 9.0 earthquakes and includes triple-layered glass that's 5 times more energy efficient than conventional windows. The construction process is so refined that workers follow precise choreographed movements, and the entire assembly process is filmed and studied like a scientific experiment. You won't believe the scale they're planning. Chinese companies are now exporting this prefab technology globally and have contracts to build entire cities using these methods, with some projects planning to construct 200-story buildings in under 3 months. Think traditional construction is the only way? Chinese builders are proving that what takes the West years to build can be accomplished in weeks, fundamentally changing the economics and speed of urban development worldwide. Number 8. China has underground cities beneath major metropolitan areas that can house millions of people, originally built as nuclear bunkers but now serving as subterranean shopping malls and living spaces. Sounds like science fiction, but Beijing's underground city spans over 85 square kilometers and was designed to shelter the entire population during nuclear war. These subterranean complexes include restaurants, barbershops, movie theaters, and even hotels, creating parallel cities that most tourists never know exist. The tunnel systems are so extensive that you could walk from one end of Beijing to the other entirely underground, passing through multiple levels that descend up to 8 stories below street level. Here's the scary part about their original purpose. They were built during the height of Cold War tensions and stocked with supplies to sustain millions of people for months during nuclear fallout. Wait until you find out what's down there now. Entire shopping districts with thousands of vendors selling everything from electronics to designer knockoffs, all operating in fluorescent-lit tunnels that never see sunlight. You heard right. Some people have lived in these underground spaces for decades, paying rent that's 90% cheaper than surface apartments but dealing with constant humidity, poor ventilation, and the psychological effects of never seeing natural light. The complexes are so vast that they have their own postal codes, and delivery services regularly navigate the maze-like tunnels using specialized maps that aren't available to the general public. Think living underground sounds unlivable? Over 1 million people in Beijing alone use these spaces regularly, either as residences, workplaces, or shopping destinations, creating a hidden economy that operates completely separately from the surface world above. Number 7. Chinese factories produce 80% of the world's air conditioners, but millions of Chinese workers in these same factories can't afford to buy the products they make, working in 100-degree heat without air conditioning. You won't believe this irony. While Chinese manufacturers like Gree and Midea dominate global air conditioning markets with combined revenues exceeding $40 billion annually, their own factory workers often labor in sweltering conditions that would be considered unsafe in Western countries. Factory temperatures regularly exceed 38 degrees Celsius or 100 degrees Fahrenheit during summer months, and workers are given salt tablets and electrolyte drinks instead of proper climate control. Here's the heartbreaking part. A typical assembly line worker earning $400 per month would need to save their entire salary for 8 months to afford one of the mid-range units they help manufacture. Wait until you find out the working conditions. Shifts run 12 to 14 hours during peak season, and workers often faint from heat exhaustion, leading to factories installing misting systems and providing cooling towels rather than actually air conditioning the workspaces. The cost-benefit analysis is brutal. Installing proper air conditioning in a factory would cost approximately $2 million, but the resulting increase in labor costs would make the products uncompetitive in global markets. You heard right. There are entire industrial cities in Guangdong province where the air conditioning factories themselves are not air-conditioned, creating a surreal situation where workers literally build comfort for the rest of the world while enduring conditions that would shut down facilities in developed countries. Think this sounds like modern slavery? The Chinese government acknowledges the problem but argues that higher labor standards would drive manufacturing to even poorer countries with worse conditions, creating a race-to-the-bottom dynamic that keeps millions trapped in this cycle. Number 6. China's high-speed rail system is so advanced that trains travel at 350 kilometers per hour, or 217 miles per hour, regularly, but a single ticket can cost more than a month's salary for rural workers, creating a two-tier transportation system. Sounds unbelievable, But while China boasts the world's most extensive high-speed rail network with over 40,000 kilometers of track, a first-class ticket from Beijing to Shanghai costs $180, more than what a factory worker makes in a week. The engineering achievement is staggering. Chinese trains are so precise that you can balance a coin on edge during the entire 4.5-hour journey, and the system transports over 3 billion passengers annually with a punctuality rate exceeding 98%. Here's where it gets crazy. The government subsidizes these trains with over $500 billion in investment, yet the people who need transportation most can't afford to use it. Wait until you find out the social implications. Wealthy Chinese now consider flying outdated because trains are faster, more comfortable, and more reliable, while migrant workers still travel for 36+ hours in overcrowded regular trains that cost 1/10 the price. You heard right? There are essentially two Chinas operating on parallel transportation systems, where your economic class determines whether you travel at medieval speeds or in space-age comfort. The technology gap is mind-blowing. High-speed stations resemble airports with facial recognition boarding, while regular train stations look like refugee camps with people sleeping on floors waiting for delayed trains. Think this creates social division? The psychological impact is enormous. Rural Chinese describe feeling like second-class citizens in their own country when they see the high-speed trains they help build through their taxes but will never afford to ride. Number 5. Chinese internet censorship is so sophisticated that citizens have developed an entire coded language using homophones, puns, and visual symbols to communicate forbidden topics, creating a parallel digital culture invisible to outsiders. You won't believe how creative Chinese netizens have become in outsmarting the Great Firewall. They've developed a complex system where river crab means censorship, because it sounds like harmony in Chinese, and posting pictures of Winnie the Pooh is code for criticizing President Xi Jinping. The cat-and-mouse game has evolved to the point where artificial intelligence algorithms must constantly learn new coded phrases, while users invent faster substitutions, creating an arms race between human creativity and machine learning. Here's the mind-blowing part. There are entire online dictionaries dedicated to teaching these coded languages, with over 3,000 documented phrase substitutions that change monthly to stay ahead of censorship algorithms. Wait until you find out the sophistication level. Users embed political messages in seemingly innocent food reviews, use mathematical equations to discuss banned topics, and create visual memes where the real message is hidden in background details that only insiders understand. The government employs over 50,000 human censors plus AI systems that scan billions of messages daily. Yet determined users still find ways to communicate by using ancient Chinese poetry references, regional dialects, and even musical notation to encode forbidden information. You heard right. There's a thriving underground culture where sharing a recipe for democracy soup or posting about traffic jams, which is code for government incompetence, can get you banned, but users have developed backup accounts, VPN networks, and signal systems that would impress Cold War spies. Think this sounds like resistance? The most fascinating aspect is that this coded communication has become so integral to Chinese internet culture that even topics that aren't banned get discussed in code, creating a generation that instinctively thinks in double meanings and assumes everything they write online is being monitored by both artificial intelligence and human watchers. Number 4. China executes more people annually than the rest of the world combined, but the exact numbers are classified as a state secret, and they've developed mobile execution vans that travel to remote areas like ice cream trucks of death. Sounds like something from a horror movie, but Amnesty International estimates China executes thousands of people yearly, more than the next 10 countries combined, yet the government refuses to release official numbers, claiming transparency would harm state security. The mobile execution units are converted buses equipped with lethal injection equipment that can carry out death sentences in remote locations, eliminating the need for permanent execution facilities in smaller cities. Here's the terrifying part. These vans were marketed by their manufacturer as more humane and efficient than traditional methods, and they can perform executions within 24 hours of sentencing, often before appeals can be filed. You heard right. China executes people for crimes that would result in fines or short prison sentences in other countries, including economic crimes like embezzlement, over $60,000 drug trafficking, and even some forms of corruption. Wait until you find out the scale. Human rights organizations estimate that China executes more people in 1 month than most countries do in decades, with execution rates that have remained steady despite international pressure to reduce capital punishment. The system is so efficient that organs from executed prisoners are harvested within minutes of death and distributed to hospitals nationwide, creating what critics call an organ pipeline funded by state executions. Think this practice is declining? Recent evidence suggests execution numbers may actually be increasing, with new mobile units being deployed and streamlined legal processes that can complete death penalty cases in weeks rather than years. The most chilling aspect is how normalized this has become. Execution schedules are planned like public transportation routes, with vans making regular stops in predetermined locations based on sentencing quotas and organ demand from medical facilities. Number 3. Chinese ghost cities built for millions of residents sit completely empty while housing prices in existing cities reach astronomical levels, creating one of history's largest real estate bubbles worth over $60 trillion. You won't believe the scale of this economic disaster waiting to happen. China has built enough empty apartments to house the entire population of Germany, yet these developments sit vacant while people in Beijing and Shanghai pay 50 times their annual income for tiny apartments. The ghost city phenomenon includes entire metropolitan areas like Ordos Kangbashi, designed for 1 million residents but home to only 100,000 people, complete with shopping malls, schools, and government buildings that echo with emptiness. Here's the scary part about the economics. Chinese real estate represents 70% of average household wealth, compared to 25% in the United States, meaning millions of families have bet their life savings on property investments that may never appreciate in value. Wait until you find out the construction numbers. China has built over 140 million empty apartments, enough vacant housing to shelter the homeless populations of every developed country combined, yet continues building 10 to 15 million new units annually, regardless of demand. The psychological impact on residents is surreal. People describe living in developments where 90% of apartments are dark at night, creating ghost town atmospheres in supposedly thriving cities where the only signs of life are security guards and maintenance workers. You heard right. Some Chinese cities have apartment vacancy rates exceeding 80%, yet property prices continue rising because real estate is considered the only safe investment in a country where stock markets are unreliable and currency controls prevent capital from leaving the country. Think this bubble can't last forever? Economists estimate that if Chinese real estate prices drop to reasonable income ratios, the paper losses would exceed $30 trillion, more than the entire US GDP, potentially triggering a global economic collapse that would make 2008 look like a minor recession. Number 2. China's one-child policy, which lasted 36 years, created the most extreme demographic experiment in human history, preventing an estimated 400 million births and leaving the country with a rapidly aging population that threatens economic collapse. Sounds unbelievable. But this policy was so strictly enforced that families caught with unauthorized children faced fines equivalent to 10 years of income, forced sterilizations, and in some cases, compulsory abortions even in the final months of pregnancy. The social engineering was so extreme that government officials received bonuses for meeting sterilization quotas, and there were specialized police forces dedicated to hunting down unauthorized pregnancies using ultrasound equipment and pregnancy tests. Here's the terrifying part about the human cost. An estimated 196 million Chinese women were forcibly sterilized, and countless families were destroyed by fines that pushed them into generational poverty, while others abandoned or killed female babies to ensure their one allowed child would be male. Wait until you find out the demographic catastrophe this created. China now has the world's fastest aging population, with projections showing that by 2050, there will be only 1.6 working-age people supporting each retiree, compared to 7 workers per retiree in 1975. The economic implications are staggering. China's labor force peaked in 2015 and is now shrinking by millions annually, while the elderly population is exploding, creating a scenario where there won't be enough young people to support the social security system or maintain economic growth. You heard right. The policy was so successful at reducing births that China now faces potential economic collapse due to too few workers, forcing the government to desperately encourage families to have more children through cash payments, tax breaks, and propaganda campaigns that feel surreal after decades of the opposite messaging. Think reversing this trend will be easy? Cultural attitudes have shifted so dramatically that even with government incentives, Chinese birth rates continue falling because raising children has become prohibitively expensive. And an entire generation grew up believing that small families were not just preferred but patriotic, creating a demographic death spiral that may be irreversible. Number 1. China harvests organs from prisoners, including political dissidents and religious minorities, operating a $1 billion medical tourism industry where wealthy foreigners can receive transplant organs with waiting times of just weeks instead of years. This is the most shocking secret China doesn't want the world to know. While patients in Western countries wait 3 to 5 years for organ transplants, medical tourists in China can receive hearts, livers, and kidneys within 2 to 4 weeks, suggesting a vast supply of fresh organs that could only come from executed prisoners. Independent investigations have documented that China performs 60,000 to 100,000 transplants annually, yet only 2,000 to 3,000 come from official voluntary donors, meaning the vast majority of organs are harvested from prisoners who may be executed specifically to meet medical demand. Here's the most terrifying part. Testimonies from former Chinese medical staff describe prisoners being kept alive on life support until their organs are needed, then killed through the harvesting process itself, with some victims reportedly still conscious when surgery begins. The targeting of specific groups is particularly horrifying. Falun Gong practitioners, Uyghur Muslims, and Tibetan Buddhists are systematically blood-tested and medically examined in detention centers, creating databases of potential organ sources categorized by blood type, tissue compatibility, and organ health. You won't believe the international complicity. Wealthy patients from Japan, South Korea, and Middle Eastern countries pay $150,000 to $300,000 for transplant packages that include airfare, hospital stays, and organs that are guaranteed fresh language that only makes sense if the timing of death can be controlled. Wait until you find out the scale of cover-up. Chinese hospitals advertise organ availability dates in advance. Medical websites list organ prices like restaurant menus, and there are entire medical districts in major cities dedicated exclusively to serving foreign transplant tourists who ask no questions about organ sources. The most damning evidence comes from phone recordings where Chinese hospitals admit organs come from young, healthy prisoners, and hospital staff casually discuss timing executions to match patient arrivals, revealing a systematized industry that treats human beings as livestock for organ harvesting. Think this sounds too evil to be true? Multiple international investigations, including by the US State Department and European Parliament, have confirmed these practices, yet the Chinese government continues denying everything while simultaneously operating the world's most efficient organ transplant system that defies every medical and ethical standard known to civilization. So we've just discovered China's most shocking secrets, from ghost cities and social credit surveillance to organ harvesting and demographic disasters. Which one shocked you the most? Have you ever experienced China's hidden realities firsthand? Subscribe for more mind-blowing facts that governments don't want you to know.